Howdy, folks. Nathan coming at you from the TFL Truck Satellite Studios deep in the bowels of my basement. That's right. We are going to be answering a few more emails today. Thank you guys so much for sending us your emails. If they're not getting answered on the podcast, if they're not being answered by one of our members sending them right back to you, then hopefully they're coming to me. We're trying to make sure that you don't fall through the cracks. So there are some great questions out there, especially for the truck channel. I'm really surprised at the variety of different questions that are out there. And today we're going to be covering a few things, namely how towing can be affected by a lift kit. All right, so without any further ado, I'm going to get right to it. Let me read the first email. Now, bear in mind that some of these are emails and some of them pop up on Facebook. And from time to time, we even get a couple questions coming through Twitter and even Instagram. So just so you guys know, it's all out there. All right, the first one, it's from V. Jose. How does a lift kit affect truck's ability to tow? Very simple question, but it's a hell of a good question. If you think about it, most people who buy trucks like to augment them. I mean, other than, let's say, a Jeep Wrangler, a pickup truck is like one of the most customized vehicles on the planet. It's incredible the amount of things people will do with them. And one of the main things a lot of people like to do is lift them. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've lifted several vehicles. I'm currently lifting a little project truck of my own. However, there are a few things you need to keep in mind if you're serious about hauling things and towing things, because a lift kit will affect that, especially if you don't take into account all the hardware that's necessary in order for you to compensate what you've just done with your lift. Let me explain. When a truck is built, any pickup truck has to adapt to whatever the manufacturer wants it to, in other words, tow rating. So you build a truck, let's say a heavy-duty truck, that you want to tow 15,000 pounds and haul, say, 2,500 pounds. All right. Usually when that happens, there's a certain axle that you have, there's a certain type of suspension that you have, even a certain size tire and wheel package that you have that you put on there in order to make that work, okay? All those things have to come together with the frame, with all of the components in there, and the engine, of course. Everything has to work in a certain way in order for that car company or that truck company to maintain that level, right? The minute you make a change, you're no longer where the automaker, the truck maker, wants to be. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Let me put it to you this way. Some people actually can maintain about the same amount of towing and hauling capacity with, a frame lift. So instead of just doing a regular frame lift, a body lift, rather than doing a suspension lift, they do a body lift and maybe add on bigger tires, and it doesn't seem to affect your towing capability that much, but it can affect payload. Once again, the manufacturer has a certain level that they've set, and the minute you start making changes, it can upset the apple cart. Now, let's start with the tires. One of the first things a lot of people want to do is put on larger wheels and tires, especially larger tires, 33-inch, 37-inch, that whole thing. Well, if you're going to do that, you have to understand that in some cases, you're going to be affecting certain things that they already calculated. For instance, your ratio, okay? It's no longer going to be the same thing with a larger tire, okay? As it rotates, different ratio than a smaller tire as it rotates, okay? So that will affect your towing. Then, if you think about your payload, well, you've already lifted the vehicle up a little bit because you have the larger tires on there, and your payload may actually be affected as well, and the balance of the vehicle. So, in order to compensate for that, in some cases, some people will actually beef up the suspension. and they'll add a little bit of a lift with bigger shocks, more shocks, like 3 or 4 of them with a reservoir and all this other stuff. Well, when you do that, in some cases, you're adding weight to the vehicle, which means that you could be dropping your payload down and your towing ability down a little bit as well. So it's sort of a catch-22. You want to build up this truck and make it beefy and badass and be able to tow. You have to do a lot of things to compensate, and all of a sudden you find yourself adding even more to compensate just to get to the level you were at with the manufacturer specs. Another thing to consider is that once you start adding all these components to it, larger wheels, larger tires, lift it, and everything else, all that extra weight, well, you have to stop the vehicle. So a lot of people have to go and augment the brakes, put bigger brakes on there. It's a lot of extra work in order to maintain that level. So if you guys do want to go and lift a vehicle, by all means, if you do it right, you can make a badass off-road vehicle, but in many cases, your towing and your payload will suffer. All right. By the way, guys, we really want you to communicate with us based on what we're reading and talking about here. So please send us emails, comment below. And if you have any ideas about any videos you want us to shoot from home, please let us know. It would be great to get those. All right, this next one is a lot more detailed, but the bottom line on this question is a Coyote, this is for Ford, the Coyote V8 versus the 3.3-liter V6. That's the non-turbocharged base model V6. And this is for somebody who wants to tow a very light load. And I'm just going to read the email right here. Question: I frequently drive, not towing, from Northern California to Baja, 2,500 miles round trip, and also tow a 2,500-pound trailer around the United States. I want to get out of my 2016 EcoDiesel 4x4 because of the post-AEM reduction, power mileage, overall diesel fuel, blah, 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 blah. Economy is important, as is simplicity, no turbos, and reliability. I'm leaning towards the Ford F150 3.3-liter V6 with an automatic transmission, the 6-speed. I'm confident it'll be great for the Baja run, but I'm concerned about the domestic towing. My trailer is only about 14 feet and well under 3,000 pounds, and I'm wondering if I need to go for the Coyote instead. How will the towing mileage compare between the two? I'm good at adjusting my driving for best economy. How do I get this question to you guys? Well, this is how you do it. and so that you guys can address it. I appreciate what you guys do. Thanks so much, Dan Horowitz. Dan, thank you. Sorry I had to muddle through that. The type is so small. I'm so old. My eyes are not focusing well. But your question is a very valid one. Now, there are a few things to keep in mind. First of all, you are comparing a V6 with a 6-speed to a V8 that's hooked up to the 10-speed. Those are significantly different types of setups. First of all, everybody at TFL Truck, that's including Mr. Truck, that's including Andre, Roman, myself, Tommy, we all agree that the Coyote V8 is one of the most underrated power plants out there. It is a fantastic engine. I'm going to recommend it right off the bat, and here's why. Yes, you will dry weight, get better mileage with the 3.3-liter V6. We've driven it before. We've actually driven one that had a natural CNG hookup to it as well. So we played with that power plant before, and it's perfectly good. It's kind of industrial, but it does the job. The thing is, you want to have power when you need it, and that's where the Coyote comes in. It has excellent power, a very flat torque curve. It is really responsive. And in terms of economy, once you're towing, they're probably going to be extremely close because the amount of power it requires to move a trailer along versus the amount of gas mileage you're getting, well, it's sort of on a bit of a scale because the 3.3 requires more power to get it up and going as opposed to that V8. There's just so much more torque in that V8, you know what I mean? So I personally would recommend the V8. If you're really serious about not towing as often and you want really good gas mileage, yeah, of course the 3.3-liter V6 makes sense. But we all agree that the Coyote V8 is an outstanding engine. As a matter of fact, it's one of those power plants that I really, really, truly hope Ford keeps around for a few more years, although rumor has it they're thinking about getting rid of it soon. Dan did the right thing. He sent the question in to info@tflcar.com, I believe. And no matter which website you go to, there's always a way to connect with us. Send us the email, and it will eventually work its way either to the podcast, to one of our writers, or to something like this. Okay, final question, and this comes from Steve. Hey guys, thank you for all your hard work. I'm in the market for an HD truck. I was wondering if you guys think it's worth it to get a work truck level, or if it's worth it to move up to a higher trim level. Also, if you guys get a chance, it would be awesome to have a comparison of base trims and differences of what's available. Thank you guys for your time. And that's from Steve Cowley. Steve, great question. First of all, we have done some videos comparing a couple base model trucks. Do you guys know the craziest thing? It is so hard for us to get our hands on base model trucks for testing. The OEM, the main automakers who send us trucks want us to drive their top-of-the-line feature-laden vehicles, the ones that have all the goodies, or at least a mid-level truck, because that's where the money is. That's where a lot of people are going to buy their trucks. Base model trucks, we have to beg and plead in order to get them. It's very difficult. So, yes, we would love to make a video where we can take all the full-size trucks, all the mid-size trucks for that matter, and get the base models and put them up against each other. The logistics of making that happen are tough. So we'll keep on it. Andre is absolutely dedicated to it. Every single time he makes a request of a truck and we get a $75,000 dually or whatever, he says, hey, yeah, by the way, I also want to get a base model truck. And there's usually like silence on the other end of the line. Every once in a while, they'll say, oh, okay, we might have something for you, and they'll send us something. So we'll do our best because it would be great to do that. But we did do a video fairly recently comparing the Ram base model work truck to, I believe, a Ford base model truck. Or it may have been a Chevrolet base model truck. I'm not 100%. Anyway, go check it out. It's TFL Truck. We'll have it. In fact, we did more than that. We've done some other videos where we've done some base model trucks as well, but that's a relatively recent one. Anyway, going back to your question here, I would stick with the work truck and maybe go up to one level. Look, if you're looking at a work truck, that means that you're obviously going for the least expensive vehicle out there. The cool thing about a work truck trim, for at least the big three, is that they usually have some extra features they'll throw on there that a regular base model truck may not have. Special types of floor mats, perhaps different types of seats, little things that can actually make up the difference in terms of money. A work truck model sometimes will have a spray-in bed liner, or it might have some extra equipment inside the cab. Check it out. Once again, it depends on the which automaker you're going to, but at the very least, you should look into what the mechanical differences might be as well between the models. You might actually be able to get a different rear end. You might be able to get a 410 rear end instead of another one. These types of things can happen, so check on that. In terms of going up to higher trim levels, well, it's hard to say. If you're driving day to day and you want something a little bit more luxurious for your family, of course, go up to another trim level. You gain in terms of interior comfort. You may lose in terms of, expense, and then what the goodies are that they throw on top of a work truck. Another thing that work trucks usually come with is things like a tow package. I know that sounds redundant with trucks nowadays, but not all trucks come with tow packages. You'd be surprised. So keep that in mind. And I hope I was able to answer that question the best I could. Remember, we have a huge team when it comes to answering truck questions at TFL Truck, and we do have TFLtruck.com. So between the channel and our website, hopefully we'll be able to get your answers as soon as possible. Okay? Thank you guys so much for joining me for the Fast Lane Truck and for TFL Now and everything else that's out there. This is Nathan. I'll see you guys next time.